Hey everybody, welcome to a conversation on Esther. We're in week 3. Scott, you're back.
I'm back. Did I miss something?
Tell us how was Vilnius?
Yeah, I just got back last night from a little over a week in Vilnius doing some helping Journey church that we partner with. They're moving from one space to another, which is, I mean, we've built out some spaces.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And always when you like building out raw spaces will make you it just is overwhelming. Are you laughing at my computer taking off?
Oh, that's not it. It's the middle initials.
I don't even know what they mean.
I was like, I don't know what V stood for, so I changed it to L. What is the L?
Just so you know, most people listen to this in audio, so what's on the screen is pretty irrelevant.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, they have an overwhelming project of rebuilding space, which we definitely have understood that weight of deadlines. The cost of time is so expensive just to go, because right now they're, in essence, in two spaces. There isn't one thing that is, I guess, a great thing in the United States. It's common that you can negotiate your build-out time as being free. That's not necessarily a global reality. Yeah. So right now they're double leasing, which makes it, when we first got there just over a week ago, we were part of went and I did a little bit of teaching and stuff at a team meeting. Hadn't even been to the new space. Like we got off the plane, went right to this larger team meeting and volunteer team meeting and just hearing a bunch of their conversations about, we're moving in. It's December, the first Sunday in December is their first Sunday in there. I remember just hearing that out loud and thinking, man, they must be farther than I thought. And then after that meeting, we did go over to the space for a minute and I went, oh no.
Yeah.
And so yeah, every time when you do some of these projects, has to be grace they're going to move in before they're done.
Yeah.
So that's like living in a house that's being renovated. It's like when we did here, when we were having church here every Sunday. And Saturday night, a significant project was
cleaning.
How do we make this not dangerous?
Where do we hide all the loose screws so the kids don't get?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
oh man, I kind of forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that is, I mean, there are so many different great aspects of it, but I think it is really, really important when a pastor or a church or a community is walking into something that's impossible like this, the value of showing up is, I mean, you can see it's a little like the first response is, so why did you come? Like, this is it. We're doing it. And that, for them to process that, it's like, to invest in helping really, really does matter. And it's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important. And so, did we finish? Not by any means, but we did probably, my daughter Bria and I, we did 100 hours of work that wasn't going to be done. And so we worked hard. And in one sense, you go, man, did we do anything in the midst of this mountain that needs to be moved?
Yeah.
But in another sense, you just look at the pictures and the stuff that wasn't going to happen that week. And so that was important. Then it was really cool. There's people from the church coming every single day as they can.
Yeah.
A bunch of university students are on break at this moment. And so a lot of university students, some high school students, and church people just coming to paint doors and do trim work and stuff. It's so fun to connect with them. I did on Saturday night, there's a group of college students that do a Christian podcast. And that was a lot of fun to do that. It was, the podcast, it was about the normal length for them. It was 90 minutes. And I thought, who listens to this stuff?
Is it in English?
It was in English. Yeah. Yep.
Did they pick a topic and then just talk about it, or how did they go?
The topic for this one was me. But
what was it called?
That's why they went.
I don't know. I'll figure that out. But we should share that. It's pretty fun. So Jordan is a university student. He's about to graduate.
Third place, the Embedded Church podcast.
Could be. I don't know. Jordan, he from India, southern India, went to university in Lithuania, didn't know a person, got connected to the church there.
Yeah.
He's like, his grandpa was a pastor in India, not his dad, but he just such a great guy, and probably will be a part of church planting in Lithuania ongoing. And then Gleb, a Belarusian university student, and just a really, again, a cool guy. He's working while going to school, he's working for an airplane parts company. But again, he's like been a Christian for 2 years, went from connection to the Orthodox historic church, and then went to university, showed up at Journey Church, and just transformational. And then there's a third person who wasn't able to be there, but he's from Kazakhstan. Again, all these guys, that's the thing about Journey Church. It's an English-speaking Lithuanian church there.
Yeah.
So it kind of brings the world together.
That's really cool.
But I have, anyway, it's important to go and help. And I think it's available for all of us in different, it doesn't have to be across the world. But when you see somebody that is, or an organization or group that's doing something hard, to just show up and help a little bit, it really matters. So it's great to do that.
It's good. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
Are you awake?
For sure.
No big deal.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this would be, if you do have jet lag, this would be, it's 8 hours ahead, and so it wouldn't feel anything now. Probably will feel a little tired later this evening, but you just got to power through.
Yeah,
You
don't fall
can't.
asleep.
Nap is jet lag's enemy. It's reset. Nothing like a day of travel.
Yeah, how long were your flights?
Vilnius to Copenhagen was just a couple hours. Copenhagen to Boston was more like 8 hours, and then from Boston here's 2.5 or something like that.
At that point, you're like, well, it's a 2.5 hour flight.
Yeah,
We're almost home.
nothing to it.
Man, it's a lot.
So, but good to be back. Rich, wrap up.
Yeah, tell us what's important.
Well, it's the 12 feet of meat you brought back.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah. That's the wrap up.
I love. They're
They're the
the
official snack of Poland's national football team, even though you weren't in Poland.
I know. I'm sorry I didn't read that.
What's
Yeah.
Lithuania's football team snack, also known as soccer?
So, yeah, but the thing is, Lithuanians, which talking to a high school student, they said that historically Lithuanians' national sport is basketball.
Okay.
They are basketball
It's
crazy.
from New Girl. Did he go and play in Lithuania?
And so the EuroLeague team, there's one EuroLeague team. It's in Kaunas, which is just another city, one of the other second largest city, I think, in Lithuania. And they talk about, and I so badly wish we could have gone to a game, but they talk about how it's like watching global soccer where people just scream the whole game, just
That's
chants,
crazy.
standing, jumping. That's what they do for their basketball games. The Vilnius basketball team is not on the Euro League, but it's also, they say that the games are just crazy. So basketball is huge. But when you talk to a high school student, they say, yeah, basketball's kind of the old people's sport, which they're meaning like 25 and older. And so
What do the kids play? Is it soccer?
it's soccer.
Yeah.
And but the Lithuanian national soccer teams haven't even made the Euro Cup in forever. And so that we're not good at soccer, but we're like, soccer's cooler, but basketball is the national sport.
Interesting.
They are. So you
The
go
two
into
worst sports.
it's what?
So those are the two worst sports.
Aw.
Man.
I love, you go to we went to, not this time when I was there, but we go to a St. Cloud-ish sized city. It's called Penevizhes. It is, and it's not a big city, but there is a basketball arena that looks like bigger than the Target Center in these small villages they're into
Yeah.
basketball.
Well, we've been in Esther.
You
weren't here.
You were gone.
You haven't. We're 3 weeks in, and you haven't done a single You haven't spoke a single message on this.
So great.
I got to speak in North last week, which was really good, really fun. And I told everybody that last week's was probably the second best message in Esther, and this week's the best one. And it's purely because I think it's so comical. Like one of my favorite moments in the entire Bible is in this week.
Yeah.
Which one?
It's the moment that Haman goes to see Xerxes, and Xerxes goes, "Haman, I'm glad you're here. What should we do for somebody that has like honored the king? Like, what should we do to show them we care about them? How should we celebrate this person?"
Yeah. And
Haman,
he's patting his own back.
he's the ultimate prideful character.
Yeah.
Like, I think if pride was summed up in the entire Bible, it's Haman. And so much to the point where I was sharing this with Dick, who grew up Jewish, and he shared a lot about how they celebrate this story in their culture growing up by making these pastries.
Hamantashen?
Yeah, Hamantashen. The pastries that signify, they're like these over-the-top, beautiful, delicious pastries, but they signify Haman's hat, the hat that Haman wore.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of signifies his pridefulness. But it's this moment, so Haman comes in, and he thinks the king is talking about him. And Haman hates Mordecai. That was what we talked about.
He's coming in just to like talk to him.
Yeah, he's coming to tell Xerxes we should kill Mordecai and all the Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, just before this is that he leaves a private party, walks out, and he walks by Mordecai, and Mordecai doesn't, in essence, curtsy to him, and so he goes, "Boy, I hate that guy, and let's make a huge pole that I'm going to stick him on tomorrow."
Yeah. And so he's like, "Man, the king's talking about me. What do I want?" So he lists out all these things that he would want to be celebrated by the king, and the king goes, "Perfect. I love that plan. It's so good. Go do it for Mordecai." And it just destroys Haman. He's so mad.
I love to like his friends and family know, like everybody, because he's been complaining about it. So everybody knows they know like his plan, and now all of a sudden he has to swallow all his pride and bring him around the city and celebrate him.
Celebrate the guy he wanted to kill.
Yeah. And he made it so great because he thought it was for him.
Yeah.
Just bigger and better.
It's one of the most comedic moments.
Swallow your pride. It's probably built from that.
I love that
moment. Yeah. In the midst of all of this, the thing so right before this, chapter 4 is for such a time as this one-liner. Is what Mordecai says to Esther. Maybe you've been placed to this point of leadership to protect not just you and not just Mordecai, but the Jewish people. These are remnants of exile living far from Jerusalem and are now facing a moment they're on the doorstep of a genocide, being removed killed, all of them being killed. And Esther, in this place of being queen, but never revealing that she is Jewish, is being asked, well, make the request and expose who you are. And could have gone really, really poorly. Approaching the king, part of the precursor of the text is that Esther is queen because the king was pretty good at eliminating queens.
She was the prettiest of them all.
Well, but the reason the position was open...
Yeah, because he got rid of Vashti.
Yeah, and Vashti was also known that she was invited in to perform not because she was
No, she was pretty.
And so it just wasn't... Being the queen and being liked by the king was not enough to preserve your life.
No.
And so now, all right, for such a time as this, Esther says, well, if I'm going to go do this, you have to go and fast before I go. And then she goes, and it's like all these pieces fall together. And I feel like so much of life, this piece is not falling together.
No. Well, we were talking last week about that moment. Because I was like, what does it look like to get prepared for something this big? And Rich was pushing back a little bit on like being more holistically prepared for something like this. And
it's the being versus doing.
Yeah, which is, I don't know. How do you prepare for something like this? to give up your own rights and be willing to sacrifice yourself.
I think her statement of, if I perish, I perish.
Yeah.
Like she just was, it's not so much being to the point of being prepared that's like, okay, I'm ready, here we go. It's more just being ready for, I'm going to do this, and what happens, happens. Yeah. I think is, if I perish, I perish.
Yeah, it's very Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego.
It's very Daniel.
Yeah, and Daniel's one. Mm-hmm. Yep.
We could probably keep saying it's very, and then just add all these Bible characters.
It's all these people.
Mm-hmm. But now, to the humor point, is that I think God is very humorous sometimes in his provision. It could have just been a moment where, everything falls into place and Haman kind of fades into obscurity. To feel the character of God and his provision is that it's messy. It involves obedience. It's not the elimination of risk. It's just the idea of being in the midst of the circumstance and situation. And I think, for me, the thing that is really compelling for me in this narrative is that never is there a moment where it says, and then God changed the heart of the king. Because the first step in this whole narrative is that the king couldn't sleep. Well, why couldn't he sleep? Was he struggling? Was it a God thing or not? It doesn't say. Just he couldn't sleep. And so then he turns on the TV.
I know. I love this. That actually also is really funny. He's like, you know what? I need a sleep story.
And so bring me the history
books and just read to me what has been going on.
Yeah. Also,
in
the history
area.
books were about him.
Yes. Read to me
it's
about
not history.
Me.
Yeah. Tell me what happened in my life and why I'm so great.
Yes.
And so they start reading right where the story that, again, part of the humor is that the king didn't remember this moment when there was a plot to kill him, and Mordecai.
Yeah.
If there was a plot to kill you, would you remember it?
Yes.
Yes. But how many times?
I remember
all the plots. I wasn't going to tell you that.
I know. So he goes, oh, what did we ever do for that guy that helped spare my life?
He was real sleepy. So.
Yeah. And so these well-placed moments of him reading this and going, Mordecai, wow, I forgot to send a thank you note for that.
Yeah.
And,
I forgot to send a thank you note. I like that.
Yeah. And so that's where the humor moment is. He's like, we got to make up for this. And then, who's in the courtyard?
Yeah.
And here comes Haman. Strutting in, wearing his fancy hat.
Is Haman talking?
Yeah.
He was mad because he had just saw Mordecai, who he's been wanting to kill this whole time.
Hate that guy.
Yeah, and not enough to just hate that guy, but want to eliminate all of his people.
I know that. Okay, so did they knew that Mordecai was Jewish at this point, so they still didn't know that he was related to Queen Esther because. We step back, just like the previous chapter, we kind of skipped over this, but it's the part where, after Esther has asked everyone to fast and she's kind of putting a plan in action and she goes and waits for the king and even that was fearful because if the king didn't give her the gold scepter, it's basically you're going to be killed. So, and the king hadn't seen her in a month. So she's kind of out of favor of the king. In the previous chapter, they said, they hadn't seen her for 30 days. So he's tired of a little tired of Esther. Right. And so he so that he does put out the gold scepter. She was okay. And then they just had their first feast and invited Haman to the feast. And I think it's this, we were talking last week a little bit too. It's why did Esther have 3 feasts? Why didn't she just have one feast
and
say it all? Instead, she had to build up some trust. She had to build up some good feelings between the 3 of them and build up their egos, which I also think is funny because she's building up their egos so that Haman still has no idea what's coming.
And to the humor moment of it is that from I'm worried that he's going to have me killed to the next, it's less than an inch away in the text is just say whatever you want, Esther. You can have up to half of my kingdom.
Yeah.
Which, for most people to offer, is so you can have half of my '93 Ford Escort.
Yeah.
This was.
You can borrow the car.
This
sometimes.
was the most wealthy person in the world.
Yep. Yeah.
And
yeah.
so,
How large was it? Was it? His kingdom is like.
Yeah.
It's massive. I mean, it's about 900 miles or something.
Yeah. It was basically the majority of the known world in that moment. And so, in their perspective, this wasn't. I'm worried you're going to kill me. Have up to half of my kingdom. Just ask for it. And then to make that request or make that offer more than once was just it is crazy.
Yeah.
And so then again to point to the character moment. So all right, God, you're working these amazing things, but that could have been a moment for Esther to really quickly go, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mordecai. Thank you for making that request, but I didn't die. And so I'm actually going to ask for infinite wishes.
I wish for infinite wishes.
Yes, but to play the boys, she was playing the boys.
Oh yeah, she was
playing into their ego.
She was.
It's all playing into ego, and then to again, where this is going, it's not neat, and it isn't without cost. But they're walking to the place where there's provision, where they're not eliminated.
I also think it feels so urgent. I mean, she invites them to this feast. He goes home. He's mad again about Mordecai. He's planning to impale him. And then the next day he was going to, that was the plan. And then instead
the pole was standing.
Yeah. The pole was ready for him and everything. And the king couldn't sleep and read.
So the pole in this story is, what is it? Like
a
Chekhov's gun or whatever.
Oh,
because it comes back in the third act.
Yes,
it's it's mentioned and then it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's another really intense theme of this book for sure. Is that all of these pieces are what is happening initially is revisited, is
over and over
continually
again.
Revisiting. Yeah, and it just again is like from Vashti being unpleasing to the king, and Esther being so pleasing to the king.
Yep.
And from this moment right in the middle of the text where Haman assumes that it's all for, he's risen to power, and he assumes that the king's honor is going to be to him, and now it goes to Mordecai. So it's like this is the fold of the text. And
I keep imagining it as like a puppet show.
Yeah, for sure.
This
Yep. And this...
I just picture VeggieTales.
Yeah, also good.
The beauty of all of this is that here's a group of people that they're 900 miles from Jerusalem. There's a significant percentage of people have already moved back to the promised land.
Yeah.
And here's a moment where God could have forgotten them, and them disappearing would have been kind of a blip in not just Jewish, but human history, that they just faded into obscurity. But here in our own lives, when we feel like we're just a blip that just could fade into obscurity, God, far from what we would say is maybe the promised land that God is providing and is working things out. And it is humor that even I would, whatever the proverbial even I would have enough provision, or have provision, this quiet provision of God.
What you got, Rich?
I mean, that's good. It's on being God's provision, all of that it's good. And I don't know, I get a little bit of in the seriousness there is joy. I think we take ourselves too seriously sometimes, as maybe as humans, but as Christ followers. I think the joy needs to come out more. And being able to talk through scripture and talk through a story that was told in a funny way kind of brings out a little bit of joyful camaraderie, even though it's a heavy story.
Right now we edit in Dick singing the song as the audio over.
And eating the Haman Tasha.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.